I have no idea what to do, so I'm just gonna make this about Chewy Cat, whom I have discovered through Ghostlight. I don't think if you like normal songs, you'd really get what nerdcore is. I didn't even know it was a whole separate genre from regular music until I heard the word nerdcore. From Rocket, obviously, but that's not the point. So, when's the first time I've actually ever heard Chewy Cat in a Rocket song? Anyway, the first time I ever heard Chewy Cat's vocals was 2 years ago in a song called Bang. I know what you're thinking, that's a little inappropriate. I don't know which one of them thought it was a good idea to call the song Bang, because then when I tell somebody this is my favorite song, it sounds kind of perverted. Like saying Sophie Hunter's CVNT is your favorite song, although that one is way worse. That one is way worse. Regardless, I remember thinking that I thought Vinny sounded like that because I know Rocket has more of a softer voice, so it couldn't have been him. Obviously, I wasn't the type of kid to look at double features when it came to nerdcore music, since the names and the imagery was already overstimulating. But when I first actually checked out Chewy Cat, which would have been around several days ago, I remember a familiar song he used to sing, which was called Lockdown. I thought that was a rocket music song since I've never really strayed too far away from things that are familiar to me, which actually benefits the fact that Chewy Cat is familiar to me, which means I feel safe in that sort of environment with his music, I guess. So the first song that really caught my attention was Welcome Here. I love it when these nerdcore artists romanticize Huggy Wuggy. I'll Never Leave You by Try Hard Ninja is my go-to Valentine's Day song, also Free Hugs. Not only that, but he's also the creator of my third favorite Huggy Wuggy song, which I used to listen to way too many times when I was 15, Give Me a Hug. You know when you're a teenager and you kind of have vampire fantasies and you're like, wow, it would be so romantic. I can't get over how romantic it sounded when he talks about sinking his teeth in your lungs, especially since he's like so long and kind of fluffy and he looks really comforting and kind of like he's what I would imagine would be my love interest if I had discovered that at the age of 13. It's weird. I'm weird. I might need actual therapy, but we can get back to that later. One song that also jumped out at me when I started listening to Chewy Cat was Deadly. The song sounds like Russian roulette. If you're not familiar with that, what that means, I'll screenshot it on Google since it'll waste less screen time. I don't know what the song is for, I just know it's a Roblox song. I'm gonna be bringing up this term every time since it's hard not to. If the masculine voice doesn't sound different in comparison to male pop stars, like Justin Bieber, Shawn Mendes, Ed Sheeran, kind of like mainstream, I guess. And the majority of other male singers, they tend to like have really the same vocals, which is just not my thing. Chewy kind of sounds like he's singing through his teeth. To exemplify how this would look visually, I'm imagining when Huggy Wuggy's smiling at the protagonist of Poppy Playtime. I do feel that Chewy Cat is the perfect singing voice for Huggy Wuggy, not because he sounds like Huggy Wuggy, but I love his voice. I can imagine that if you ask any female what character would they simp most for in Poppy Playtime, it would be Huggy Wuggy. Unless the Doctor is considered hot, because he looks more humanoid than the majority of the Poppy Playtime crew, but I don't know. I'm gonna be honest, I've never developed a crush effect for a fictional character before, but Chewie's voice brings Huggy to life. And yes, a lot of nerdcore artists, specifically Try Hard Ninja, have brought Huggy more traits than Poppy Playtime itself. But Chewy Cat is the head of my resolution. He makes Huggy Wuggy feel mortalized. It's not like Huggy Wuggy was actually supposed to be considered a romantic character, but I don't know. I love his design, and the music just amplifies it. But that's my favorite part about Chewy Cat. Second favorite part is the lyrical simplicity. Of course, I love when artists tend to jump out of the norms, but with Chewy's vocals, I love his vocals despite whatever it is he's singing. His voice sounds like he's singing through his teeth. Again, I'm gonna keep saying that. Clenched teeth are just such a bonus for me. The more uncomfortable the atmosphere of the song is, the more strained the vocals sound, the more vibes it's bringing. I sound demented, but humans tend to strive more through music that sounds painfully relatable. Of course, nobody can actually relate to people dying and getting torn apart by paranormal video game characters, but you can relate with psychological metaphor that hides behind it. The psychological metaphor. Among Us is one of these situations, which the topic of best friends would be best fit. I remember mentioning this one, so we'll just quickly analyze this one, and if you guys like it, we can make a whole list of relatable Chewy songs that I really like. So the song is about this guy having unstable thoughts about eating his friends, a cannibal, in other words. If we take this into a metaphor, this is someone who's damaging the lives of their friends and understands that what they're doing is selfish, yet they don't have the strength to disassociate, and when someone tries disassociating, it becomes a mess. The psychological endpoint is that harmful thoughts are produced by isolation, abuse, and trauma. The thing is, trauma doesn't always come in one form. It's not necessarily something that would traumatize you because we all grew up differently. Say your parents were neglectful and you're in a shopping mall and you remember getting lost and you were so scared. Now you're at the shopping mall with your best friend. Your best friend leaves you for a couple minutes to go get something. You freak out and break down. This puts extra weight on your friend. It prevents normality from sinking in. It's basically like mixing oil and water. Say you have verbally abusive parents. Whenever shouting surrounds you, you freak out, you get jittery, you freeze, whatever it is. People react differently when they get an episode of what happened to them when they were younger, but most people don't tend to grow out of these things, which is why isolation tends to be a suitable option, actually. The thing that traumatizes me the most is people, because whenever I communicated with other people, other groups, or tried to bond, I ended up saying and doing things that made me the weird kid. I was proud of that title back then. When you're a kid, everybody thinks it's cute, so I thought being awkward and overly passionate about disgusting and weird and very inappropriate topics was entertaining to everybody else. I thought that would be my identity. When I turned 10 years old, which would be middle school, teachers would tend to reprimand me because the things I was saying was inappropriate for a child to be talking about. After homeschooling, it gave me an opportunity to realize I don't need to talk to people. So disassociation is a relatable topic, especially when it comes to songs about friends. It helps me cope with the fact that I made the right decision to avoid people. Chewy Cat is like a second chance at discovering rocket music. Chewy Cat has a huggy-wuggy voice. It's a horrific voice that drills the element of isolation. He makes me feel comfortable with the random instrumentals that don't really sound like they belong in songs like that. And I haven't heard another singer who sounds like this, and would prefer to keep it that way since Chewy Cat is my catnip. I go crazy for it. With that said, that's all I can really say about Chewy Cat himself, and thus far, I will attempt to scramble a bunch of super exotic songs together in order to make a top 10 video for you guys. See you later, I guess. Hellos and goodbyes are equally hard, okay?